I'm in broadcast journalism. We get to do there's no taking
I got a question for you. I thought I saw in the
Raw Devil Dog.
Rod Gill.
My husband graduated 5 tech 2005.
Nice. 75. Awesome. Doing pretty good. That is great. Nice. Do you have all the preset arms and water arms and that stuff like that? You don't have that stuff? Getting ready to make an announcement to start this up. Oh, good.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll probably get started here in about 2 minutes. I'd like to welcome you this evening. Again, we'll have the official ceremony kick off in about 2 minutes, so if you could kindly take your seats and be ready for the ceremony, we'll certainly appreciate it. I'd just like to say a few words before we get started with the official ceremony. If you could kindly make sure your cell phone is on vibrate or off. I was told to pass that along. We'd certainly appreciate that. And I know some of you are looking at me and saying, wait a minute, why is the weatherman up here with this kind of ceremony? Well, first of all, I do control the weather, and we have great weather for this ceremony. The showers have moved out. Second of all, those that may not know me, because I know we are in West Hartford, we are not in New Haven, but I am a meteorologist on Channel 8, New Haven, and I was in the Marine Corps 1990 to 1996, and I served proudly, and I am honored to be here for the position that I am in tonight. I actually have goosebumps right now, especially when I first walked up and saw this wall and then did some reading, so I am very honored to be here this evening. If I mispronounce a name, I do apologize. I started my day today at 1:52 this morning, so bear with me. I might even need a little makeup from you, young lady, for just under the eyes here as we get a little further into the program. But again, a wonderful evening in place, and what I'd like to do now is to ask you to please stand for posting of the colors. And before we do that, I want to tell you who these gentlemen are. They are the 2nd Battalion, 25th Marines, Fox Company out of Plainville, Connecticut. Their unit and many of our own New England men and women serving with them have served in Iraq, Afghanistan, as well as many battles throughout its illustrious history. We would like to thank them for being here today to commemorate the bringing of the Wall of Remembrance to the families and veterans of New England for the first time. And I'd also like to highlight the wonderful police officers over here. We have the West Hartford Honor Guard and also Bloomfield Honor Guard. Why don't we give them a round of applause for standing here with us this evening. Color Guard, post! I'd now like to have you remain standing, please, and have Reverend M. Yvette Early from Mount Calvary Church Ministries and Outreach come up to sing the national anthem. Let's give her a round of applause. That was amazing. I think they heard that in New Haven. Oh, folks, please remain standing. I'd like to have the invocation, and that will be given by Dana Hallenbeck. Dana began studying for the ministry in 2003 and was ordained as a minister in the Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod in 2009. She retired from town service that year and took a call to Zion Lutheran Church in Manchester. He also serves as a chaplain for the Connecticut State Police and the Manchester Police Department. Please come on now.
First, a reading from Psalm 121. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. And then from the prayer of St. Francis, Lord, make us an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. Holy Father, grant us also a firm resolve to confront the evil in this world with your courage and strength, that we may stay the arm and bring to naught the plans of all who desire to do evil and harm. Let us not be blinded by anger and hatred, but guided by your Holy Spirit, help us to remain vigilant and be prepared to act in all of our earthly vocations. We give you thanks, dear Lord, for those who have taken up the sword to defend and maintain peace and order in your creation, both here and abroad. Guide, protect, and sustain them. We also lift up and remember before you all those who have lost their lives and those who have given their lives in service to you by serving and protecting others. Grant them eternal rest, and may perpetual light shine upon them. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
I'd like to introduce a special gentleman here tonight and who has a very important part in this. Derek Hendershot is the director for the Global War on Terror Wall of Remembrance. He is also a U.S. Marine who is driving the wall around the country. The wall was created on the 10th anniversary of the September 11th attacks and was supposed to be a temporary display, but Hendershot convinced its creators to make it a traveling memorial. The goal is to eventually get within 50 miles of the hometown of each person whose name is on the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a round of applause for Derek Hendershot.
Like he said, I'm the guy that drove 3,000 miles to bring you the Wall of Remembrance. But to give you a little history about it, this wall behind me is the second version of a wall that was only meant to go up once. The man had it up for 6 times. The guy by the name is Richard Nichols. He was a civilian who wanted to do more after 9/11 to show the support, from the West Coast for what the East Coast was going through. So he literally gathered banners and took them down to the firehouses and the police stations, and that's what kind of sparked it. Well, 10 years go by after everything else, and he created this wall as a memorial to the anniversary of 9/11 because nothing had been done. And on top of that, he had just brought in the Vietnam Wall into town, into Orange, California. And oh, by the way, you guys can be seated if you want. Yeah, sorry. I'm not going to make you do that. I'll do it as quick as I can because I can run my mouth. But anyways, he decided, after seeing the Vietnam Wall come in and how much healing it had there, we out of Pendleton, there's a group of Marines called 3-5 Dark Horse who took some of the greatest hits and were basically enabled to function as a unit, but they did anyways. And we decided in their honor, along with the 10-year anniversary, that this wall was created. Well, he only had it up 6 times. It wasn't meant to go up there. It was acceptable to the wind. It wasn't meant to go the distance. Well, I fought him for a year and a half to get it to my college. I was the president of the Veterans Club at school, and I fought because I had buddies on this wall that I wanted to honor. So what I did, once we did that, another school wanted to go, and another school wanted it. And so I basically just said, hey, this thing needs to go around the country. And if you make a suggestion, you better be willing to back it up. And so guess who's driving it for the last over 3 years? We've done over 100,000 miles. We've had over 127 saves from suicide with our wall. We've been changing lives, doing what we can. But it's just, this wall would not exist without you guys. This is what's important. The wall itself is a wall, and it means dear to me because I've slept next to this wall many times, and I've been the only one here. There wasn't crowds, there wasn't color guard, there wasn't anything. It was just me standing in a 10 by 10 booth, making sure this thing was protected for 40 hours straight. But you guys, when I drove over 3,000 miles, and it might get a little emotional here, but to get here, we started with the truck and trailer. I had to transfer everything in Nashville to a Penske truck to continue. And then I hopped in and did 15, 16 hours straight to here to get here 7 hours before the escort into town. And I got to tell you, the Valhalla MC, you guys, I woke up this morning, I woke up late, honestly, and I was worried. I was like, oh my God, I'm not at the wall, because that's how much it means to me. And I knew it was in good hands, because you guys, West Hartford had brought the wall in, and you guys have shown it the proper love. When I come in, I see the flag flying, I see the town coming together, I see the community coming out. I mean, this is what I do it for. Without you guys, this is nothing, really. This is a slice of America that everybody should see. It's because you guys care, it's because you guys are taking the time to remember. But on top of it, this wall here is a front porch because it brings us all together. And this is where the healing happens. This is where the communication happens. This is where veterans are able to talk about their different issues. And then we have different, eras of veterans that we can work together. Before I've had to have, docs that were guys who were in Iraq talk to medics that were in Vietnam because they've been through a lot of these issues. But I'm dedicated, and I can't thank you guys enough, and I can talk forever. I'll probably say something new tomorrow. But I can't thank you guys enough. And for me to be able to be relaxed like this and not have to worry about it means so much to me. And you guys are the reason why it's here. And you guys have shown it an awesome welcome. I wish Sierra was here. I wish he was up here seeing this, because it's something that he created that he had no clue. And it's a living wall. Our first year, I literally spent Memorial Day I left, I came home Veterans Day. I was 6 months on the road with this thing, sleeping on couches, and one of them was Stephen Cochran's couch in Nashville. And, we just make it happen, because it has to be out here. It has to be healing lives and changing it. You know, too many veterans are committing suicide. Too many veterans are looking down, and, you know, we need to change that. But it starts right here. It starts in everyone's community. It starts with you guys. And thank you so much. And I'm going to shut up. So, thank you.
Let's hear it for him, folks. Let's stand and give him a round of respect here for all he's doing. And I'm going to mention from the crowd, we certainly appreciate what you're doing, and you have a heck of a mission. And it's very moving. Thank you from the bottom of all our hearts. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. God bless.
And if you would kindly, we're going to have you remain standing. We have another part of this ceremony now. I'd like to ask, we're going to do the memorial wreath laying, and if I could have Mary Kite come up and any of the Gold Star mothers. Ms. Kite here lost her son May 19th, 1967. And what we're going to do now is we're going to place the Gold Star Mothers Memorial Wreath in front of the wall. And actually, as we do this, why don't we pause for a moment of silence, too, and reflect. Let's do that. Thank you. Let's post the wreath, please. Thank you very much. And if you could remain standing, we are going to retire the colors before we get into our speakers that are here this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Thank you. We have a variety of guest speakers here this evening. First up is Congressman John Larson. He began serving in the U.S. House of Representatives in 1999 and is presently in his 9th term serving the people of Connecticut's 1st Congressional District. Again, I got up at 2 a.m. Let's give a round of applause here for the congressman who's here.
Well, thank you, Gil, and thank you for not only doing the weather and making this the kind of day it is, but thank you for your service to your country as a veteran as well. How about a round of applause for Gil? It's with a deep sense of humility, an honor to be invited here this evening to speak and to stand among heroes and heroines and amongst people who have witnessed, seen people give, as Lincoln said, the full measure of their devotion to their country. I want to thank Gil. I want to thank J.R. Nichols, the founder of RASF, the Rear Area Support Foundation. and Connecticut Friends of Veterans for making it possible for this wall to be here. Derek, you could have talked all night. You're a remarkable individual for doing this. Like Gillen, reading about this earlier, I was struck by something that Mr. Nichols said, that this is a monument that's created not only for those that appear on the wall, but for those that are still serving. Those that are serving, and I believe he said, in fact, dying for our country, having just come back this past June from visiting our troops in Israel, Jordan, Germany, and earlier this month, going up to the DMZ in Korea, where I had the opportunity to meet with Ketrick Martinez of West Hartford, Connecticut, a graduate like Larry Philippon from Conard High School. Long way to travel to Korea to meet someone from Conard. But I was reminded, whenever you get the opportunity to meet with our troops, what remarkable men and women they are. And when you think that less than 1% of a nation of 330 million people serve in our military, our Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, Vista, Teach America, Senior Corps, less than 1% of the nation serves. If that doesn't fill you with humility for the job and the sacrifice that all of you here today, 90% of whom are all veterans, I don't know what does. We need a new calling for national service. And certainly, I believe deeply in that. In North Korea, I also met with 4-star General Vincent Brooks, who was the first African American to graduate from West Point. Remember that name. This is a man who was destined. What he had to say about Korea, I will long remember. The tribute that the Korean people, the respect that they have for the American sacrifice there, the monuments that I visited there, not the least the tension that still exists on the DMZ. But what General Brooks said was that for so long, people referred to Korea as the forgotten war. And for many of you who understand and know, was often referred to as a conflict, not a war. It surely was a war. But what General Brooks says, it should be remembered as, or referred to more as, the forgotten victory, because of what American troops did there and how the people of South Korea are forever in our debt. And when you look at what they have done with their nation, you see the great virtue in the democracy that all of you shouldered on behalf of your country, that they now reap the benefits and will be hosting a second Olympics. From total tyranny to hosting a second Olympics, brought to you by the Armed Services of the United States of America. So I see Peter Galgano back there, and Paul Berry, and so many others who participated when we brought the Vietnam Wall to Rentschler Field. And I also see my good friend, John Scanlon. And I was talking with Mary earlier this week, and she said, "Do you know John Scanlon?" And I said, "Mad Dog?" She said, oh, please, don't call him that, Doc. Well, I said, well, Mary, you're right. He's really a cream puff. But the truth is that for Pete, Paul, John, and so many Vietnam veterans, who never got the respect that they deserved, that they richly earned, who in fact were spurned when they came home to their own country. They have made it clear in defining the meaning and the understanding and the differentiation between the warriors and the war. They made sure, those warriors made sure that no future warrior of this nation would ever come home and face the same circumstances. And that's why you see memorials like this, and that's why you see the continued outreach on behalf of Vietnam veterans and veterans of all wars and services to their nation. It's because of their deep-seated belief in understanding what it means to represent the United States of America. We owe a great debt of gratitude. Thank you all for your service. Memory is what distinguishes us all from all other walks of life, is memory and remembrance. As it's been said, this wall will provide an opportunity to heal. It'll provide an opportunity to reflect. But it also provides an opportunity to inspire. I say inspire on a solemn occasion. I say that because what has been brought together here, an explanation of the long war on terror, very well documented, and 11,000 names that appear here. They're best, in my mind, described through two women that I've been fortunate to meet. Judy Keene and Lisa Philippine. Women with uncommon valor under the most excruciating and heartbreaking of times, through which we get a glimpse of the nobility of a woman's heart, of a mother's love. Judy Keene lost her husband in 9/11. He was one who lost his life in the World Trade Center. Chief, I know you and firefighters and police officers all across this nation, which this appropriately recognizes as well, remember vividly that scene of people running up the stairs as others were coming down. In Wethersfield, the Sunday after September 11th, the whole community turned out for Judy. And she stood there. And where the mothers, Gold Star mothers, find their strength and serenity, how They bring about a calmness to all the rest of us. Can never experience what they do, but they provide us that unbelievable relief. Well, Judy did that, and then said, Remembrance will also be about the creation of a foundation, and the Keene Foundation that reaches out and supports and helps and assists people and continues to inspire people every year in Wethersfield, benefiting children and kids through outreach and scholarships. And Lisa and Ray, what you have meant to this community, to this state, to your country. Nobility, born, a beautiful son, the mother and father who held out to the public and provided deeper honor, dignity to everyone who serves. Everyone who serves. On September the 11th, everybody remember, I don't know, many of you may have read a lot about Lisa and Ray, but May 8th, a Mother's Day, to receive the news on Mother's Day and your anniversary. How do they do it? I ask myself repeatedly, and yet they do, and carry on with foundations and remembrance and scholarships of their son. It was a great honor for me to submit Lisa's Mother's Day letter to the Congressional Record. I can't tell you how many members of Congress have come up to me and said how emotionally comforting, though heart-wrenching, it was. Across this country, you establish memorials, stones, marble, and granite. But memorials are principally carried in our hearts. This weekend, you're going to have an opportunity to reflect, to come here and to heal, and to talk with one another, and to reminisce, but to appreciate the profound impact of this wall is to merely look around. This evening, tomorrow during the day, at the candlelight ceremony, look around. You want to know the meaning of sacrifice and the full measure of devotion, look around. It's written on your faces. It will be forever carried in your hearts. God bless you. God bless America.
Let's hear it for the Congressman. We appreciate you coming out, sir. Next, I'd like to introduce West Hartford Mayor Sherry Cantor, who's worked in public and private accounting. In 11 years on West Hartford's Town Council, Sherry has been involved in meeting the needs of all members of the community, including right here tonight. Mayor, come on down.
Thank you so much for including me. Gil, thank you for your service, and it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming to West Hartford. I also want to thank the Congressman, a remarkable advocate for all of us in the state of Connecticut, and a remarkable supporter of people that serve. And we are very, very grateful for your wonderful words, inspirational words, and your presence here. Thank you to the Rear Area Support Foundation and Connecticut Friends of the Veterans, and as well as our heartfelt thanks to Ray and Lisa for your work on behalf of service members, veterans, residents of Connecticut, and to bring this wall, this remembrance wall, here in your son's hometown, Lance Corporal Lawrence's Philip Holmes' hometown. I also want to do a little recognition of my town councilors. Ben Winograd is here. He actually lost a classmate, Michael McMahon, right? Also my town councilor, Judy Casperson, whose husband is an Air Force veteran. Let's see, and I think I saw Senator Bai in the audience, yes, and our town historian, Tracy Wilson, who tells us remarkable and inspirational stories. Both of them tell us remarkable and inspirational stories, and work so hard on behalf of our community. And our own town manager, who really led the way for everybody to set up and welcome this wall, and is a veteran himself. Also, I've been told that we have another town councilor, Chris Barnes, also in the audience. Hi, Chris. On Mother's Day and your 24th anniversary, as the Congressman said, you received the most heartbreaking news that your son Larry would never return home to both of you, to his sister Emily, and to his brother Ryan, and to his fiancée Olivia Lawrence. You have been strong and brave bearers of his memory, and the memory of all of those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in service to our country in the global war on terror. We are so grateful to you. I'm honored to join you to pay tribute to the many men and women who have served their country in the global war on terror, near and far, and given the ultimate sacrifice to protect the rights that we all cherish. In my own home, service is admired, honored, and respected. My mother, who is here today, her Jewish father escaped from Poland when he was 17 years old, settled in New York City briefly when he was drafted into the U.S. Army, barely able to speak or read English. He fought in Europe during World War I and was shot while serving in France, so he was sent home. My dad, the sole male in his family with 4 sisters and a widowed mom, served in World War II at the end of the war and in the Army of Occupation in Germany. My nephew, who attended preschool in West Hereford, is a captain in the U.S. Air Force. We just attended his wedding in June. He came back from Estonia last week to be there with his new stepdaughter while she had a leg surgery and will be stationed in Missouri on base waiting for his next orders. My own son served for 2 years in the AmeriCorps program, and I'm grateful for his service as well. When my husband and I went on a cycling trip through the fields of Normandy, the magnitude of simple white graveside markers, the vision of the massive losses at Normandy as that horrible kind of awesome, powerful and solemn, kind of like viewing the 58,195 names on the Black Gabriel walls on the Vietnam Memorial in D.C., and approximately 11,000 names on this global war of terror wall of remembrance. The white panels include names that are going to be added. Recently, August 23rd, U.S. Serviceman Staff Sergeant Matthew V. Thompson was killed in Afghanistan, and on August 25th, the latest reported death toll from the attack on the American University in Afghanistan was 14. The global war on terror has many heroes, and I would like to share one who was a recipient of the Global War on Terror Congressional Medal of Honor. As reported by Jeff Emanuel on May 25th in 2007, Jason Cunningham, U.S. Air Force of Carlsbad, New Mexico, joined the U.S. Navy at the age of 19. After serving for 4 years, he desired to join an elite Air Force fraternity known as the Pararescuemen. The USAF has fewer than 1,000 of these professionals whose job it is to deploy by any means necessary, sea, air, or land, to rescue downed air crew members and injured special operators. He was assigned to the 38th Rescue Squadron at Moody Air Force Base, Georgia. 8 months later, he was deployed to Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan as part of Operation Enduring Freedom and became part of a surgical team when a quick reaction force, QRF, comprised of Army Rangers responded to the Battle of Roberts Ridge. This was a subset of Operation Anaconda. It was under significant ground fire. It was forced to make a crash landing on an exposed area on a hilltop only 100 meters from a fortified enemy position. The soldiers on board immediately took on fire and casualties began to mount. Cunningham worked feverishly to treat the wounded Rangers and aviators. Doing so in the back of a downed Chinook helicopter until it caught fire and became the target of increasing accurate enemy mortar fire. Making the decision to move his patients, Cunningham crossed the line of fire 7 times, separate times, while successfully transporting them to higher ground. He was then forced to move them twice to avoid enemy fire, raining on their static vulnerable casualty collection points. Finally, after midnight, after having so successfully defied enemy fire so as to move and treat his patients, he was shot in the abdomen just below his protective vest. According to the Air Force Times, Cunningham must have known he was in serious trouble. But despite the worsening conditions, he continued to treat patients and advise others on how to care for the critically wounded as his own life was draining from his body. Every wounded man he treated survived the encounter, and for his extraordinary heroism and gallant action in living the pararescue motto that others may live. Posthumously, he was awarded the Air Force Cross, the second highest award that USAF offers. As my nephew Jeremy awaits his orders on where he will be deployed, these stories touch me, my family, I know it touches my mom, and inspires hope and admiration. As Mr. Emanuel explains, the mindset that compels a person to put himself in harm's way for the purpose of saving another is impossible to express. However, it is a defining characteristic of the true warrior who has faced combat and experienced the reality of having his life entirely in his hands of the men next to him and each of theirs in his. Dr. Joseph Blake, a sociologist who has researched the act of soldiers throwing themselves on grenades and other acts of sacrifice in the line of combat, said it has a whole lot to do with not so much patriotism as much as fighting for their buddies. They don't want to let their buddies down. As Founder Nichols states, and Derek was so kind to share and work so hard to bring this wall here. We appreciate that, Derek. This wall serves to provide closure for vets who never got to say goodbye to their comrades in battle. But it also educates Americans, our own town, and I hope so many of our town residents stop by and see, as well as all over the state of Connecticut, what their personnel are doing and how military personnel are still fighting and dying. This wall exists because we need to tell their story. Remember them, support them, and honor them. God bless.
Thank you, Mayor. That was wonderful, and thanks for hosting this here, too. We certainly appreciate it. Up next, I'd like to introduce Denise Berard Hall, who is Senior Vice President Manager of the Treasury Sales Department at Webster Bank, has over 30 years of experience in the financial industry. Let's have her come up. She is currently an elected official on West Hartford Town Council, where she has served as the Republican minority leader since 2009. All right, thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much, Congressman and Mayor, for your wonderful words tonight. I am so proud to be part of the West Hartford community. In a number of the conversations that I had with people before the events began tonight, they commented on how great the town of West Hartford was to work with, how it was so seamless, moving the wall here and all of the different areas of the town that contributed to make this happen. And most of the time I looked back at the people who were commenting and saying, well, so many of our senior administrators are veterans, and the experience, the knowledge that they gained in the armed forces are what they bring to the town of West Hartford and what makes it such a successful community. So thank you. Thank you. Mr. Van Winkle. And thank you all of us, all of you, for joining us today as we honor the victims, both civilian and military, of the global war on terror. The town's special thanks go to Lisa and Ray Philippon for organizing, for their own service, their sacrifice, and for helping our residents keep the memories and awareness of the war our soldiers are fighting alive in our collective consciousness. My husband and I both work in the financial industry, and the attack on 9/11 struck at the heart of America's financial capital. CNBC is a constant backdrop in both of our offices, and we spent that day watching what unfolded at the World Trade Center, in shock and numb with the knowledge that we each had former co-workers and friends that worked in the buildings. Tom Therkoff, who I sat next to, his name is on the wall behind me. That night we came home and Tom said to me, "Our lives will never be the same again." The country seemed to come to a halt, the markets were closed, planes were grounded, and businesses were all impacted as daily routines seemed impossible to contemplate at that time. 15 years later, those memories are still fresh, but I also remember a bright spot during that time. One of my closest friends was getting married a week and a half after 9/11. With planes grounded, many of her guests were unable to attend, and the couple would not be able to reach their honeymoon destination. At the reception over at Wampanoag Country Club, the greenskeeper had painted a huge American flag along the hill in front of the 18th green. During the reception, again, my husband Tom went around to all the guests and said, "We need to get a picture to capture this moment that life goes on after a tragedy." So the wedding guests all gathered around for the picture, and to me, that moment embodied the strength of the American people. We were wounded, but we came together to support each other in a way that I had never seen. I'm sure each and every one of you can remember that time where everyone was proudly flying an American flag and coming together. We were truly the United States. The global war on terror did not cease, but for many years we were successful in preventing attacks at home, and many of us let our guards down. Unfortunately, that is no longer the case, and the wall reflects the terrorist attacks that have taken place through the one in San Bernardino. For the first time ever, my husband and I discussed the possibility of a terrorist attack as we planned our trip to the Baseball Hall of Fame's induction ceremony festivities in Cooperstown, New York. Because after all, what's American than baseball, and what could be a more likely target? That is what makes terrorism so insidious, the sheer randomness of the attacks on innocent people as they go about conducting their daily activities. As families and communities, we evaluate these risks. West Hartford plans our first ever Center Streets event on August 28th. The event will close traffic on the streets around the center, and guests are encouraged to come and ride their bike and walk, shop. Everything will be open. There'll be food for sale and live music performances. But meanwhile, in Europe, Paris has canceled a similar event planned around the Arc de Triomphe after an ISIS sympathizer with a truck killed 85 people on a pedestrian waterfront in Nice. In northern France, the city of Lille canceled a massive September flea market that it has hosted since the Middle Ages, and that it hasn't canceled except in 1944. But we are comforted in that we know our military will not give in and will not give up. We as citizens will not allow terrorists to dictate our actions. But we must come together as a country, as we did after 9/11 and as we did after the Boston Marathon bombing, to unite people with a common purpose to defeat terrorism so that this wall does not continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Appreciate that. And up next, I'd like to introduce our veteran commissioner, Sean Connolly. Commissioner Sean M. Connolly began his service. Yeah, give him a round of applause, sure. He began his service with the Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs back on March 16, 2015. He is also a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve, currently serving with the 655th Regional Support Group, headquartered at Westover Air Reserve Base in Massachusetts. He's an East Hartford native and also a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Let's give him one more round of applause for the work he does. And I see him quite often at veteran events, which is very important too. Great to see you, sir.
Thank you, Gil. Thank you for your service. Too bad it wasn't in the Army, but we'll let it. Just kidding, just kidding. My wife tells me when she's mad at me that Armies aren't ready for the Marines yet, but I'm pretty proud of my service in the Army. So thank you, of course, to Derek for your amazing spirit. Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Congressman Larson, for your tremendous work on behalf of our veterans here in the state of Connecticut and around the country. As you work hard for our veterans down in Washington, Mayor Cantor, thank you very much, Chief. All of our distinguished guests, the Philippons, of course, and the most distinguished guests, our great veterans who are here and our great Gold Star family members who are here. I do see 2 seats up front. I know we've been going for a little bit. Anyone who wants a seat, feel free to come on up and grab one of these 2 seats if you need to sit down. Well, I want to say, as Gil mentioned, as a veteran myself, as an active Army Reserve soldier, as your Commissioner of Connecticut's Department of Veterans Affairs, it's a tremendous honor for me to be here with you tonight to pay tribute to those who gave their lives in the global war on terrorism. Now, recognizing the names on this wall of soldiers that I knew when I served at the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault, and having served in Iraq in 2003, this wall serves as a particularly impactful memorial and reminder of the selfless service and sacrifice of our brave military men and women, our first responders, and our civilians who made the ultimate sacrifice. Now, as we all know, America's military has been the guardian of our freedom since the birth of the Republic. But we also know that that freedom doesn't come without a price. And so today, we reflect on the devotion to duty and patriotism of our almost 11,000 men and women who have sacrificed to protect our security and our freedom from Beirut almost 30 years ago to present day. This year in particular, we mark 25 years since America's military led a multinational effort to halt the ruthless dictator and free Kuwait in Operation Desert Storm. And of course, while it is hard to believe, it's now nearly 15 years since America responded to the horrific attack on our own soil with the beginning of Operation Enduring Freedom, followed a short time later by Operation Iraqi Freedom. Again, our nation's servicemen and women have borne the battle with dedication and courage. We pay homage to the men and women of those wars and the patriots of all our wars and conflicts who have fallen in service to our nation. We, of course, honor and salute our former service members, our currently active service members, our veterans who stood ready to defend our liberty. To our Gold Star family members, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, husbands, wives, partners, and children who lost loved ones in service to their nation, you know all too well the price that you've paid for freedom's cause. Your lives were forever changed, and we honor your sacrifice here today as well. So as we reflect on the fallen with this great memorial, this great wall of remembrance, we would do well tonight and every night to also remember that the United States has the longest enduring constitutional democracy in the history of the world, and it's our men and women who have served in uniform and sacrificed to make it so. May we never forget them or their sacrifices. Thank you. Veterans always. God bless the fallen. God bless our Gold Star family members, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate your time tonight, too, sir. Up next, I'd like to introduce Assistant Police Chief Dan Copinger, West Hartford's Assistant Chief, and he is also an Air Force veteran, 22-year member of the Connecticut Air National Guard. He was activated during the Persian Gulf War and also deployed overseas to support the war in Afghanistan. During his military tenure, he served in a variety of positions, including State Command Chief Master Sergeant, where he served as the senior enlisted leader for over 1,200 enlisted troops in Connecticut. He retired from military service after his last deployment in 2010. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the Chief up here.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here. About a week ago, my wife told me to make sure I actually write a speech for this event, because I tend to just talk off the cuff, and my speeches tend to go rather long. And when she knew that I was over here talking about heroes, and talking about heroes to heroes, she knew that it's a tough thing for me to do. So I am definitely going to stick to my script. But thank you. Congressman Larson, Commissioner Conley, Mayor Cantor, council members, fellow service members, Gold Star families, and friends, and all of you, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and evening to join us this evening for the ceremony. When I was asked to be guest speaker for this event, I proudly accepted right away. However, in preparing my notes for this speech, I found myself drifting back to past experiences. Those feelings of shock and sadness when receiving the information or that telephone call that one of our heroes has died. Having served 22 years in our great military, as well as 26 years in public safety, you get to know and work with many incredible people that I would certainly categorize as heroes, and some of those have lost their lives in the performance of their duties. It is in the inherent nature of the duties and careers of these individuals that they encounter danger and risk their lives on a regular basis. These courageous heroes that we honor today are service members, first responders, as well as citizens like those on Flight 93 that have spearheaded the fight against terrorism and that have made that ultimate sacrifice. My family and I have visited numerous memorials like the Vietnam Wall, the Flight 93 Memorial in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the memorials at the Pentagon and World Trade Centers. What I have found to be the most moving at each memorial are two things. First, it's the quietness. Watching our fellow citizens with their families moving quietly and slowly, respectfully in reflection, and moving along, reading and touching the names of our heroes. It generates a feeling of sorrow, but also a feeling of national pride. Secondly, are the personal items left by loved ones, family, friends, children, and fellow service members. These items in themselves create a greater connection to the name on the wall and the connection to the individual. Like these memorials, the moving wall is a tribute to the memory of these incredible people. The mobility of the moving wall allows for a greater awareness for our citizens to have the opportunity to embrace the sacrifice of these brave men and women. We should honor these heroes not just by remembering them today or on Veterans Day or Memorial Day, but we should remember them every day. Let their loss and sacrifice serve to encourage us to seek out the joy of life that is so tremendously precious. Let their sacrifice be our call to do better. It is also important to remember that each name on the wall not only represents the loss of a hero's life, but a loss to a hero's family. Each have made incredible sacrifices. Always remember that these men and women, remember them for how they lived and for what they believed in. Let the loss of their life remind us to be a better person, to work hard and be kind to others, to do what is right and just, and to speak up and take action for those that are unable. That is what our heroes would do if they were still with us. I'm humbled by the sacrifices of these heroes, some who I personally knew,
Gotcha.
some who I personally knew and watched grow up, and some who are not listed on this wall. And even though they are not standing here with us, so we may look them in the eyes and say thank you, we can still feel their presence. We can still make them a part of our lives by remembering their sacrifices and using that memory to keep us focused to do better. When you leave here today and you ask yourself, how can I best honor the memory of these men and women? Please remember a common creed that is followed, that they followed, and that is shared by soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. It's all about taking care of the person on your left and the person on your right. We as a country need to do that in honor of these heroes. On behalf of the men and women of the West Hartford Police Department, of which 35 police officers are armed forces veterans, thank you very much.
Don't. Diane needs to be something else.
Thank you. Let's hear it for the Assistant Chief. We appreciate that. Up next, I'd like to introduce West Hartford's Fire Department Battalion Chief, John Deckers. He was assigned to the Suppression Division. He has done a number of things, department-level training, completing administrative operational projects as assigned by the Fire Chief. Let's hear it for Battalion Chief John Deckers. Good to see you, sir.
Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone on behalf of the men and women of the West Hartford Fire Department and Fire Chief Gary Allen. I would also like to echo the sentiments of all of our speakers this evening. I will not repeat a lot of the stuff they said because there was some valuable information and we would just prolong our event here this night. But I would be remiss in not mentioning that the Wall of Remembrance holds a very special place in the hearts of many department members. Several of our firefighters have either served, currently served, or have family members serving in this war on terror. And after 9/11, George W. Bush made a promise: we will remember. However, as time passes and press coverage of these specific events wanes, our busy lives tend to take over and remembering takes a back burner. So I want to personally thank the Gold Star families, the Philippons, and the Connecticut Friends of Veterans for giving us an opportunity to fulfill that promise again, and by helping the members of the West Hartford Fire Department, residents, and visitors of the town to refocus our energies, to remember why and what's happening with these people on our walls, and basically just to refocus and pay attention so that our busy lives don't dwell and take over. So thank you again on behalf of the West Hartford Fire Department.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Up next, I'd like to introduce what we call a devil dog, one of these Marines coming up. First Sergeant Granger joined the Marine Corps in 1985 and reported to Parris Island, South Carolina for recruit training. He received a meritorious promotion to Lance Corporal, reported to D Company Infantry Training School, Camp Pendleton, California, where he attended his MOS school of 0311 infantrymen. Fast forward, and August of 1990, he participated in Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. He's also testified before the Senate Armed Forces Committee on behalf of the Marine Corps in 1997. Has been all over the world, and fast forward to the I&I 1st Sergeant Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 25th Marines, right here in Plainville, Connecticut. Also served in Operation Iraqi Freedom 5 in Fallujah, Iraq. Upon returning from Operation Iraq Freedom 5, 1st Sergeant Granger retired in 2008. Let's hear it for 1st Sergeant Granger. Come on up top.
There's more than one Marine here, just letting you know. We're a couple hundred people, 2 Marines, we're good. As we continue to thank everyone for coming today, and there's always a lot of great words said by a lot of great people. I'd like to remind you, we're here to honor all these names on this wall. But we're also here to honor those families in this crowd, the Philippons, the Bixlers, Angelina, your brother's up there, Mary, and the other Gold Star families, members that could be here, the brothers, the sisters. We're here to honor them as well. Their son, their daughter is on that wall. Their brother, their sister, their mother and father are on that wall. And that's who we're here to honor. What you don't know is there's a lot of people in this crowd that made this wall happen. Everybody had their own reason. Derek has his reason. West Hartford was gracious enough to do this for us. They had a reason. The deep down reason of the people who started this was mainly to honor and remember that these people on the wall, that their sacrifices to our country, our America, is never forgotten. Their names don't sit in some book, on some shelf, in some library, in a dark little corner that never gets read. That gets forgotten and dusty. And some kid breaks it out for his history class. We, with this wall, Derek with his wall, with all these monuments that we build at these schools and stuff, this is for us to keep their life, their story, and their name alive from generation to generation. I will ask you how many people remember somebody that ran across the sands of Iwo Jima, the shores of Korea, the jungles of Vietnam. Not too many people can name one. We'll not let it happen to these young men and women on this wall as long as we can. To all the thousands of family members across Connecticut and New England, because we wanted to bring this up to the region, I say we, these fine women and gentlemen out here in the crowd. Their sons and daughters, brothers and fathers, names on these walls. While we know the pain of your loss, Mary, Bixlers, Philippons, those of you who served beside them in the same holes, went to school with them, while we know your loss, we feel that pain deep in your heart that you feel daily. We feel your pain with you. You're not alone, ever. We do what we can as veterans to make it easier for you and wish we could take that pain from your hearts forever. I will tell you like this, to the Bachelors, the Philippons, Mary, there's so many, Angelina, reach out to us. We're in your schools, we're in your workplaces, your banks, we are everywhere. Reach out to us. We are there for you. But we will not forget what your sons, your daughters, your husbands have done. To all those veterans, first responders, and many others that worked with them, you lived next to them, or you were with their friends. If your friend is on this wall is here to heal you. Don't hide. Don't fight the demons. Every day we lose somebody to the demons. Don't fight them alone. Your brother or sister on that wall, this wall right here was brought here for you. Find them on the wall. Reach out to them here. And I will tell you, you will hear them and they will reach out to you. This is your sanctuary. Face your demons here with them, among your friends, your fellow veterans out here. Some of these veterans out here have faced the same demons and beat them. Turn to them now, here, right here, no one cares, and help them help you fight those demons if you have them. To our Vietnam veterans, and the congressman couldn't say it any better. And there's veterans here. I hope we still have some of those hard charges from our Korean War. But especially my Vietnam veteran, our generation thanks you. From Billy, who served in Beirut, me, Desert Storm, Iraq a few times, Jamie, Afghanistan, everywhere in between. My buddy in the Eagle Riders over there, whose daughter just graduated boot camp. We thank you. When a country didn't love you, you still set that aside. When the country did not love its Vietnam vets, you still set that aside for us to make sure it did not happen to my generation.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's fine.
This wall that was built, that Derek drives, was built because of y'all. Because in your time, they did not care. They did build a Vietnam Wall much later. It should have been much sooner. And with your help, we're helping these young men of this generation now, not 40 years from now. And when you could have said, screw the world, they didn't love us, screw the rest, you didn't. You made sure it did not happen to us. Why? Because you changed the perception and view of America towards this country's warriors. A warrior just follows what his country asks, no more or no less. And people understand that thanks to you. No one knew the demons you fought at your time, the suicide you faced, the pain of your losses. No one had sympathy for you. You were here to help, yet you're here to help today's veterans, first responders, the families here, even though you still have your own scars. And we know those scars don't go away. It wasn't years and years ago, those scars are fresh in the minds of veterans every day. When they lay down to sleep, they see it like it was yesterday. I will say to you, though, my Vietnam brethren and sisters, use this wall. When you're here helping these young guys, use this wall for yourself. Tell us what haunts you. You've been there for us. This is our opportunity to pay it back to you and be here for you as well. This is your wall as much as it is ours. Interesting, yesterday I heard, and I'm wrapping this up, I know we've been here a while, from someone that said, how comes it only seems to be veterans who ride motorcycles who care? First I will say, not everybody that rides a motorcycle is a veteran. Many of them are. But all of them who ride do dearly care. You don't have to be a veteran to care. They come from everybody in every walk of life. They mount up without being asked to meet or honor our heroes and bring them here to you. They only have to hear or read of an event of a fallen hero, and they saddle up to be here. They escorted this wall. They've escorted our country's fallen to their resting places, to their families. They show up at countless memorials and events and never have to be drug out of a house or told to go. They are the escorts of heroes down the many highways and back roads of America. Honored to escort them to you, the public who cares. We thank all of them. We thank you for remembering and bringing our brethren home. And I know you've seen the countless films on TVs, YouTube, Facebook, whatever the latest one is. But you cannot go to one single one and not see the flags lined up, the bikes lined up, whether it's at a state border, at the airport, anywhere. They're lined up, bringing our brothers home. So my hat is off to them. They do this, all the bikes across America, and never get praise for what they do. To the town of West Hartford police departments, really that public works guy, he's been really kicking around here, making this stuff happen. He's been great. All the countless organizations and people who've made this happen, thank you. Not from me, from all of them. Thank you from all of them. Thank you from their families for bringing this here to them, and all the friends that they had through the New England area. We greatly appreciate it. And lastly, and I only had to do this now because a dear illustrious Army Lieutenant Colonel made a comment. But it's all good. I will remind you the power of the Marine Corps. All right? And that, don't get me wrong, because we joke and kid around. The Army, the Navy, Air Force, Marines, our sailors, our Coast Guard, we all die and fight for the same reason. We all bleed the same red blood. Don't get me wrong. All right? We have a congressman right here that with a phone call could probably make the entire Air Force go in the air. All right? We have a first sergeant that with one Lance Corporal, I could take any town in the state. All right? But I will tell you, all this that was done, it wasn't a first sergeant, it wasn't a lieutenant colonel, but a private, a Marine Corps private sitting right over there, that the congressman named John Mad Dog Scanlon scratched his head and called that Lance Corporal over there. And not only did they get this wall here, I'm still trying to figure this out because I was having a hard time getting hot chow. in Iraq. Not only did they get this wall here, they got congressmen, the whole town, remarkable, a private in the Marine Corps. That's the power of a Marine. And with all the great people that came together to make this happen, the town and everybody, that private right there wanted this to happen for these Gold Star families. And he did it. Hoorah.
Hoorah, let's hear it for the first sergeant. Hoorah. And the private, hoorah. And folks, if you would remain standing, please, because I have a couple of special people who are coming up next. I'd like to introduce Lisa and Ray Philippon from right here, West Hartford. We've heard about them. They helped organize the wall's arrival. They, of course, have the personal connection to the wall. Their son, for those of you that don't know, U.S. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Larry Philippon was killed in action in Iraq in 2005. Let's give them a round of applause. They're going to come up, please. You can have a seat once they come up here. Thank you.
Good evening. We are the Gold Star parents of Lance Corporal Lawrence Robert Philippon. Our son Larry grew up here in West Hartford. He loved his family, his friends, his teachers, his coaches, his hockey and lacrosse teams, fishing, and his Marines. Larry had a great sense of humor and kept us all laughing. He graduated from Conard in 2001 and had just started at Central when our nation was cowardly attacked on September 11th. That day, a seed to serve and protect was planted in his heart, and his love of country more than self took root. Larry was not alone, as it was a pivotal day in the lives of many America's sons and daughters. Our son chose to become a United States Marine, and on February 20th, I watched him leave to go to Iraq. On May 8th, it was Mother's Day, a day to remember mothers. It was also the day to remember our 24th wedding anniversary. A message posted by Larry's unit commander indicated that the Marines were on the move and they would not be able to call home on Mother's Day. But he said that they would be thinking about us. Our hearts that day were heavy as we thought about the moms and dads who had buried sons or daughters from this war. What a difficult day this was going to be for them. We were thankful that our son was alive, that we had each other, and we were grateful that our younger children were home safe. With somber reflection, we were ready to close that day. At 9 o'clock that evening, two Marines, Captain Brian Latendry and Gunny Palmer, came to our door, and our lives were plunged into complete darkness as we listened to the captain recite these words. I have been directed by the President of the United States and the Commandant of the Marine Corps to inform you that today at 05:30, your son was killed in action in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. May 8th, a day full of good things to remember, suddenly became a day that altered the future of our family. It will never be forgotten in our lifetimes or in the lifetimes of all who knew our son. Captain Latendry became a cherished member of our family. We would be remiss to neglect telling you that his name is also found on this wall. He too became a casualty of Operation Iraqi Freedom on May 3rd, 2006. Each of the individuals represented on this wall have family and friends. Each have a life story that makes the impact of their absence far-reaching. Our continuous prayer is that they will never be forgotten. The other side of this wall reflects the horror that has taken our loved ones away. To see these events collectively is startling, horrifying, and reminds us of the evil that continues to rage on. Ray and I believe in the promise that God brings comfort, and we give thanks for those incredible individuals that He has placed into our lives. Their hearts are set on honoring and remembering all who have laid down their lives for our nation, those who protect our homeland and those who have been taken from us in attacks against and within our country. Many have become like family. In the words of the captain's father, Mel Latendry, our family grew exponentially on that day. One of Larry's favorite songs was Leonard Skinner's Freebird. If I leave here tomorrow, will you still remember me? The Global War on Terror Wall of Remembrance is a remarkable tribute of commemoration, and it answers that question with a resounding and assuring, yes, we will remember. Though the reason to remember is heartbreaking and tragic, this wall memorializes our loved ones and keeps their legacies alive. As we gaze upon the countless names upon this wall, we think of the empty chairs, the memories lost, the laughter